Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Toronto Blue Jays are now one win away from being World Series champions after beating the Dodgers in Game 5. Plus, what happened to the star-studded Dodger offense? Also, we get insight on how Chauncey Billups will be handled following the NBA's gambling scandal.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
The LA Dodgers won Game 3 playing into the wee hours of the night. And for 2 straight games, their bats have yet to arise from their slumber. It was 22-year-old Trey Savage who made sure in Game 5 that would be the case, striking out 12 Dodger batters in 7 innings of 1-run ball. And the Jays get a 6-1 victory. They will go back to Toronto, 1 game away from a World Series. Braden Uasco from Locked On Blue Jays joins me now. And Braden, we talked last night about the fight in this team doing what they have done all season. This though feels over the last 2 games like it has been elevated. This is something a little bit more special to see this sort of team take on the firepower of the Dodgers and just say, no more, not today.
It's hard for me not to sit here and have a little smile on my face because, you know, my entire life from, sitting in my grandparents' house with my papa watching the game. My nana was a Yankees fan. My papa was a Blue Jays fan. So he got to me first. To where we are now, it's been unbelievable. And, you got to give it to these guys. Sometimes the team just has that magic. It's that something that just, it's undeniable. And it seems like all year that these guys had it. And it didn't matter which guy they brought up. They had that little piece of magic with them as well. And talk about Trey Savage. I mean, it's a guy that I think I was quite interested in going into this game because I was talking to a lot of people sort of throughout the day. And they were asking me, well, I don't know. He's a young kid. They've seen him before. I'm like, but you know what? They haven't seen him before. He didn't have his best pitch in Game 1 of this series. It wasn't the splitter that was getting guys all the time. And so I said, he's going to look like a completely different guy compared to Game 1 when this Dodgers team saw him originally. And that's pretty much what happened today.
We've seen Blake Snell be masterful in this postseason, absolutely shut down the Milwaukee Brewers in the NLCS, and the Jays got to him in a hurry in this one. We have to take a second. I don't think we spent enough time talking about Vlad Guerrero Jr. the last time you and I spoke. He goes yard again. I mean, we are talking about a player who he's a Nepo player. His dad is a great player from his generation, and Vlad is surpassing, creating a legend all of his own. We are watching a superstar on the rise, in the making, before our eyes right now.
Yeah, and you know what? When people talk about the Vlad contract, right? And do you pay him? How much is too much money? Whatever it is, at the end of the day, there's only a few players that come around every generation that are like him, right? Him and Aaron Judge. Shohei Ohtani, I said he's in a category of his own.
We can put him on the side.
That's right. But, in that second tier, that's where you have the Aaron Judge, the Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s, the Bobby Witts, those type of players. And you're right, for a guy that, obviously we talk a lot about, but even that is still not enough. He's been so good, and the question marks around him were always, can he show up in the playoffs? Can he be that big-time player in the big moments? Well, this postseason, I think, shut everybody up a little bit because, man, he has been unbelievable. One of the best postseasons probably in Blue Jays history. If you just look at it, even the pure numbers, he has been just outstanding. And to set a tone, him and Davis Schneider in this game, set this team up for success. It gave Trey Savage a little bit of backing where he didn't have to come out and feel like, oh my goodness, are these guys going to help me by putting up runs today? Because they do it in the first 3 pitches of a ball game. It's just insane.
Yeah, and I didn't, right, we're talking about a 5-time All-Star. I didn't mean to imply that Vlad Guerrero was not perceived as a really good player, but these moments in a postseason, you need these, right, to level up as not just a star, but a super duper star. The moment with David Ortiz on the broadcast with the Yankees lose, like there's a little extra magic right now. The personality that maybe Blue Jays fans and the baseball, the hardcore baseball fans now, when you have these moments on a bigger stage, it is a different kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And, I look at a guy like Ernie Clement. We talked a little bit about him yesterday. Nobody outside of Toronto really gave a hoot who Ernie Clement was up until you get into the postseason. And everybody now is, holy smokes, look at this Ernie Clement. He's Barry Bonds against left-handed pitching. He's that guy. It's these guys getting the stage that otherwise probably you don't get if you don't get this far. Addison Barger, another guy. You can go up and down here. Trey Savage, some guys from the bullpen, Chris Bassett, good he's been. I mean, go down this line. These guys before this season or 2 seasons ago weren't even MLB players. A lot of them. It's magical.
Stay up to date all year on the Toronto Blue Jays by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Blue Jays on your favorite podcast app. You're Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, the Dodgers bats go silent. Before we get to that, the Lions are extending their best defender. The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet in the moment. Player props, same-game parlays, even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. The Lions are extending defensive end Aiden Hutchinson with a massive deal.
Hey, it's Jake Reitman from Locked On Lions, and Brad Holmes does it again. Now, the ink is still drying, but it is official. Aiden Hutchinson, mega long-term extension, 4-year deal, $180 million, $141 million guaranteed. This makes him the second highest paid defensive end in the National Football League, right behind Micah Parsons and ahead of TJ Watt, and he's worth every single penny. Listen, this is a guy that's the heart and soul of this defense, and it is another example of Brad Holmes getting the job done. Now listen to this list of guys that are locked up long-term. You got Aiden Hutchinson, you got Jared Goff, you got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penny Sewell, Jameson Williams, Kirby Joseph, Aleem McNeil, Taylor Decker, and listen, all those folks that said the Lions window's closed. Yeah, it ain't closed. You're going to be seeing Aiden Hutchinson and the monster of that defense for years and years and years. Let Brad cook. He does it again. Aiden Hutchinson, long-term deal, heart and soul of this Detroit Lions defense. We'll have more on today's episode of Locked On Lions.
Austin Reeves and the Lakers, because his super friends were not available, traveled to face the Timberwolves.
This is Danny Kamenetsky, co-host of the Locked On Lakers podcast, and the Lakers get a 116-115 win over the Timberwolves in Minnesota. Austin Reeves hits a buzzer-beating floater to seal the game after it looked like the Lakers were in danger of blowing a double-digit lead. Instead, Austin Reeves continues what has been an amazing heater to open this season. 28 points, 16 assists, only 3 turnovers, and it was part of a really balanced night for a shorthanded Lakers. 27 points from Jake LaRavia, 17 points for Rui Hachimura, 17 points and 10 rebounds for DeAndre Ayton, 15 for Dalton Connect off the bench, some signs of life from Dalton, and the Lakers are doing a really good job keeping their heads above water and actually succeeding during this period without LeBron James and Luka Doncic. For more Lakers coverage, make sure you're watching Locked On Lakers on YouTube and listening wherever you get your podcasts.
The Celtics hosted the Cavaliers.
Celtics get a huge win over the Cleveland Cavaliers. A rare win against a good team for the Celtics. Thank you to the Cavaliers for not crashing the boards until it was much too late. For Donovan Mitchell kind of disappearing after the first quarter. And for Evan Mobley just kind of taking the night off. The Celtics took advantage of that. He got a great night from Peyton Pritchard. I thought he was really good in distributing and running the offense. Got to shout out Josh Minot. His energy late in the game was a real difference maker. The Cavs made a run late in the third. They were trying to make their runs in the fourth. They started to get those second chance points, but Minot was in there rebounding, being a pest defensively, and the Celtics hit shots. It's just a different situation for the Celtics. When you hit shots, they shot a little less than 40% in the end, but we're shooting basically 40% throughout the whole game. When the Celtics do that, that masks a lot of their deficiencies, and they can get wins like this. So this is huge because the Celtics are in a tough stretch to start this season. To beat a good team like the Cavs is a big confidence boost. You head into Philly, you kind of carry some of that momentum. You get 2 wins in a row, something to build on. And if the Celtics are going to be a playoff team, if they're going to try to fight for one of those like 6 seeds, these are the games you need to win.
And the Magic tried to get things going against the Pistons.
This is Philip Rossman-Wright, the host of Locked On Magic, and 5 games into the season, it is gut check time for the Orlando Magic. Plain and simple, the way that they have played and been inconsistent is inexcusable for a team with the aspirations they have. A 135-116 loss to the Detroit Pistons, where they led by 10 in the first half, did everything that they've imagined with the ball moving inside out, getting to the free throw line, doing everything that they wanted, even defending at a decent clip. It all collapsed. Plain and simple, this Magic team has been built on mental toughness and defense. And that's not there right now. Since halftime against the Atlanta Hawks last Friday, the Orlando Magic have simply collapsed. At the first sign of trouble, at the first bit of adversity, they have been unable to find themselves again. And there are a lot of changes to this Magic team. It was always going to take a little bit of an adjustment period. But those basic tenets need to be there. It's still Paolo and Franz doing what they normally do. It's still this team being a defensive wrecking ball. But the Magic haven't been able to rely on that really at any point this season. A better defensive effort against the Bulls, perhaps. But against Philadelphia and Detroit on the road, the Magic let Tyrese Maxey and Cade Cunningham run all over them. Frankly, heading into Charlotte against another great point guard in LaMelo Ball, likely without Jalen Suggs, it is gut check time for the Magic. Because right now the season is careening off a cliff, and this team has no identity.
If the LA Dodgers are going to make history and repeat as champions, they are going to have to pick themselves up off the mat, because Toronto has them on the brink of defeat in the World Series after taking Game 5 in LA, taking 2 straight in LA. Pete Fox from our Locked On Dodgers postcast joins me now. And Pete, this is an offense for the Dodgers that is loaded with talent. And yet for the last 2 games, we have not seen it. I mean, they haven't scored enough in the last 2 games combined to win either of the last 2 games. What's going on here?
You know, it kind of smacked me in the face tonight in this pivotal Game 5. Game 5s are always pivotal, and it did not pivot in favor of the Dodgers tonight. But it smacked me in the face that this offense, and it's not just during this series, during this postseason, they punched Cincinnati in the mouth, but they are a mirage. They're like a paper tiger. They're kind of like just stat humpers, you know. They put up big numbers, but they struggled against good pitching all season. They weren't this type of world beater that would come into a good team or an average team that had one guy like Paul Skeens or somebody and be like, all right, we don't care who you put on the mound. We're going to take him down, right? Because that's who we are. And you look at the other side of the field and the other dugout, it feels like that's who the Jays are. Like, you can run anybody you want out there, and we're gonna take care of business, right? The only guy that they haven't been able to do that against is Yamamoto, who's going in Game 6, and really is just prolonging the inevitable for the Dodgers, I think, unless there's some sort of magic elixir on the Dodger plane that can get them out of this horrific slump that they're in at the plate. I mean, they are embarrassed. They come up with we had it tonight in the postcast in the chat. Every negative description of a sporting event that you could come up with was used to describe this game tonight. Embarrassing, pathetic, disgusting, anemic. I mean, they were just all right there, available and accurate.
It is weird, I think, if you followed sports, if you're a sports fan of any time, to see a team go 18 innings, you get this huge win, and you would think Game 3s are pivotal, Game 5s are pivotal. To take Game 3, take that lead, and then just not show up for 2 straight games. That's not usually how this goes. Usually you have the cathartic release and now you're freed up to go do the thing. And it seems like the opposite has happened here. It seems like that 18-inning game took everything the Dodgers had and they have nothing left, where it has buoyed the Jays in some way, despite the fact that they've been the road team here.
Yeah, it sucked the life out of them. There is no doubt. The fact was that, you can't overlook the fact that they have scored 4 runs in 29 innings, right? They went into that extra inning affair completely unnecessarily. There was no reason to play 18 innings. They could have won that game 3 or 4 times. Bad decisions by pitchers brought in out of the bullpen. Teoscar Hernandez being lazy in right field, allowing Guerrero to score from first base. And I'm not trying to say Guerrero's fat, but he's not fast. So, that was disgusting. And then Tommy Edman, who's been great and is great, and we love Tommy Edman. I'm not trying to come down on him, but he makes an error that is just like weird and unnecessary. So there was, just a lot of things that went against the Dodgers that night, in spite of them winning the game. But the thing that, as we watched that marathon, and it was like trying to get water from a rock, the Dodgers at the plate in that game we're doing what they have continued to do, and that's hit every ball out of the stadium. And they do not have an ability to put the ball in play and get on base, right? Today they were 0-for-1 with runners in scoring position, which means they had 1 guy in scoring position. I mean, that stat is, that's not so bad. It's terrible because they only had 1 guy in scoring position. They only left 3 guys on base. That's how stymied they were. So, and it's like their approach at the plate. Dave Roberts is saying all the right things. So you got to give that guy credit that he is like, we need to be more aggressive. We need to be more selective. He's saying all the right things, which are 100% accurate. Unfortunately, the Dodgers are not hearing it and definitely not doing it.
Yeah, Milwaukee Brewers fans right now going, where was this offense in the NLCS? Thank you very much. There is going to be, I think, or at least there was, it had the Dodgers won this World Series, a lot more talk about salary caps and payrolls. And I feel like we have this conversation with baseball every couple of years because a team does what the Dodgers are doing. How do you think that changes if this goes the other way, if the Blue Jays come out and win? Is it just like, see, it doesn't guarantee anything and teams are just going to, keep doing this and nothing changes?
Yeah. I mean, really, the conversation about this is, it's baseball. It's baseball at the end of the day, right? I've never been a huge fan of throwing big money at players because in the end, there's just never enough. No matter how much money you have, the Dodgers have a lot, right? There's never enough to go around. Look, their bullpen is a disaster. It is a wet, hot mess. And, it's a dumpster fire right now. So, yeah, Ohtani and the starting pitching is great. Look at last year. The starting pitching was a disaster and the bullpen was good. So you cannot buy championships. I don't care. I mean, yeah, it makes it better. It's a little bit easier getting there and so forth. But and we can go back to the points that a lot of people have said. I'll gloss over them real quick, but Ohtani gave the Angels a contract. Here, sign this. And they said no. Mookie Betts did the same thing for the Red Sox. They said no. Yeah. Freddie Freeman got passed up by the Braves. So the Dodgers were like, well, if you guys don't want him, we'll take him, and that's how they got here. So, but again, yeah, they put up big numbers, but I think it's still like a mirage. It's like, yeah, so what? They can put up these big numbers, but does it equal World Series championships? Not always. So, they're good and they win games and they're fun sometimes, but they're also extremely frustrating because you know what they're capable of, and then you see them do what they've done over the last 2 nights.
Stay up to date all year on the LA Dodgers by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Dodgers on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Coming up, a former member of the Department of Justice weighs in on Chauncey Billups' arrest. Blazers head coach Chauncey Billups was arrested last week following an NBA gambling scandal uncovered by the FBI. He was immediately placed on leave by the NBA. Locked On Blazers host Mike Richmond sat down with former DOJ senior official Danny Shulkin to share her thoughts on the arrest and why Billups will likely take a plea deal in the end.
Yeah, so I was that was my next question is like, does someone at Chauncey Billups' level of this, assuming that he's not like sort of the criminal mastermind behind this and that he's like a basketball coach involved, It's fairly unlikely that someone at his level would go to trial based on your review of the documents and stuff. I know that you before we got on here, you have reviewed the indictment, et cetera.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's highly unlikely he goes to trial. It would be there's already a pretty substantial amount of evidence in the indictment itself, and that kind of is the tip of the iceberg. It means there's a lot more, and so I think in this case it would make much more sense and be much more beneficial to him if he probably takes a plea agreement and works with the prosecutors to get some kind of sentencing reduction. Otherwise, he's looking at a lot more years.
So some of the way this was presented to us for the public was definitely for television. There's no doubt about it. The FBI director's on TV and stuff, right? Like that's for doing TV in a way that's sort of like the modern world is weird, without putting out too many value judgments on that particular approach. But what are they after with this? Like, they're not after arresting Chauncey Billups. What is the goal? Because the way it's put to us on TV, why I framed it that way, is like the 5 crime families of New York. Are they trying to, are they trying to arrest kingpins in the mafia, or like what is the ultimate goal with something of this level?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's 2 goals. One, there's clearly a coordinated effort where there is some kind of, I'd say, mid to low level gambling rings. These are not major, but mid to low level with big names. And 2, it does cause a chilling effect. Just me coming on here, there's a lot of people looking at this, and a lot of people who are likely operating in these rings that aren't indicted and that aren't being investigated yet, that might think twice.
So if we're years in the making and perhaps years down the line from trial, what are the sort of next immediate steps in this case? Like, are we from someone like Billups' perspective, is there an expedited process, or is he just kind of in the gears for now?
No, he's in the gears. I mean, he definitely has defense counsel at this point. They're going to be working with the prosecutors, trying to figure out how much information prosecutors have, how much Chauncey Billups is willing to talk and to try to exchange information. He may know information about other games or in the other case, other sports betting incidents that might be of interest to prosecutors. And in that case, he could exchange that information for a reduced sentence or just a more lenient prosecution.
In your experience as a former senior official with the Department of Justice, how common are X-ray glasses? How common are cool contacts like this? Like when I'm reading this indictment, this sounds like some true James Bond stuff, right? Like,
oh yeah, definitely.
What did those types of things, like the level of sophistication, and again, somebody won $1.5 million. We're not talking a great deal of money. Yeah. Did this seem like a little more sophisticated than you would have guessed for what this ended up being?
Yeah, it does seem sophisticated and definitely very sexy in terms of, the stuff used. And I'm sure the FBI and others also had some sexy things that'll come out as the investigation and more details come to light. I don't really know in terms of other cases. I haven't seen that much. It doesn't mean it's not out there. I frankly think that if it's here, then it's in a lot of other places too.
Well, check your poker tables, y'all. They might be X-ray powered, I guess. And just that part really stuck out to me here. In the other case where Billups is just a co-conspirator and not specifically named, is he likely to face, like, do co-conspirators often get brought further along, right, and be eventually specifically named and tried and all of those things?
It's actually, I haven't seen that often where you have 2 indictments at the same time where one defendant is named and then he's very clearly a co-conspirator in another. So I haven't seen that. It's unusual. It could be that he was, they are 2 very unrelated cases or unrelated in the sense that they're separate incidents. So the investigation, it could have seemed very separate. But, you know, it could be too that Chauncey Billups knew about this other case. He might have been approached by the investigators. I'd say that's probably highly likely at this point, and he might have given information. You know, I don't know, but it looks that way. And he might have been cooperating and was in the process of some kind of cooperation agreement or plea agreement. But it's unclear, and I imagine we're going to find out more information about that in the months and years to come.
And finally, it's not an LSU coaching search without the governor of Louisiana getting involved. Governor Jeff Landry said LSU athletic director Scott Woodward won't be making the hire after Brian Kelly's exit and that eye-watering buyout. Landry said Woodward's out of the room. A board-run committee will handle the choice with, quote, metrics baked into pay and far less appetite for blank check extensions. He even met with school brass at the governor's mansion to go over the tab. Baton Rouge wanted a reset, but it sounds like they're going to get quite the show first before finding their next guy. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, it's now or never for the Ravens, who have a game against the Dolphins on Thursday Night Football. So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.